Dr. Jazz.
I did this talk with Jimmy Haslip a while ago, so then I asked him for like, he's
Oh,
the
great.
so Jimmy, thanks for kind of setting it up. So, uh, but
Okay.
Chad, I will just jump in, not to take too much of your time. I just wanted to ask you what's happening
Oh, thanks. Yep.
on your level as a band leader. And I just listened today again to 40 Reasons, which I have on CD and still on the CD. But okay, and I love that record. And are you still composing music and leading your own bands, or what's happening there? I mean,
Well, once in a while, I have a band with Mike Miller on guitar, Jimmy Johnson on bass, and Jim Cox on keys. We play occasionally at the Baked Potato live in live gigs in LA. I haven't done any touring
mm,
for quite a while. I've been doing just a lot of other stuff at the moment, but starting to write for another project.
super.
I'm slow. I'm pretty slow with the writing process, but I'm really particular. But yeah, 3 years ago we moved into a new house, and I have a
Yeah.
really wonderful studio now, so I can actually do it all here now. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You
but
like
yeah,
bands?
those records were really fun to do. The 40
Yeah,
Reasons, the
yeah,
few. One after that was called Scream,
yeah,
Legs 11, and then Dreams, Nightmares, and Improvisations. Those were all
yeah,
super fun projects.
yeah. You
Yeah.
like being a band leader otherwise?
Yeah, it's fun. It's a different hat. You have more to be responsible about, especially when you play live. There's a lot of things beyond the music, but yeah, it's great to be able to bring those tunes in and have. I'm so lucky to have play with such amazing players. They just bring magic to the music. They really make it really come to life.
Yeah,
Because typically I do demos, sequence. Because I'm not a great keyboard player, but I put the keyboard parts in, the bass part and stuff. But and can record drum parts, so I give people demos and give them the charts I write out and stuff. But it's when they have it, it really can go different places and be
yeah.
adventurous, and that's the fun part for
Oh
sure.
man, yeah. How do you write music? I mean, I listened today to those tunes like Holiday Insane and You Came Along. I mean, some beautiful compositions there. Like,
Thank you.
how have you started writing music? When was that? And even now, how do you compose? I mean, what's your process?
On keyboard, it's different every time. I never start with a drum beat. The drum
Oh,
part's
okay.
simple for me, so I can kind of hear that in my head. Um, I'm typically it's sometimes you start with a melody, but typically I start with chords and then experiment with different bass notes until which of course changes the chords, you change the tonic. So then when I'm kind of happy with that, yeah, then I just mess with it.
Mm,
Kind of Frank Zappa just used to say, it really plays to, it really is important to play around with it. You know what I mean? Like really experiment until you're really happy with it. And when I'm happy with it, then I'll write the chart, then give it to the band.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
and then they bring their own thing
Oh
to
man,
it. So
sure.
it's,
With such
yeah,
brilliance.
that's an old record, but that was, all those records were a dream. But, I played with Allan Holdsworth over like a 30-year
Yeah. Oh,
period,
sure. Yeah.
on and off. And I wanted on that, definitely the first record, 40 Reasons, I wanted to capture some improv stuff that we did live because Alan's records are fantastic, but when we would play live with him, we would always do one spontaneous improvisation,
Mm,
and it often was just magical stuff you couldn't write. You couldn't. It would be totally different if even if you transcribed it, then you gave it the paper to musicians, it would never sound like that because it was so in the moment, and things would happen back and forth, or it would create a mood, or would create this counterpoint, or create a bunch of tension, or would create beauty. But and I wanted to have some of that. I've always wanted to have some of that on my record. So there's always these improvs that happen in between the composed pieces, typically, and that's really fun. And that's what it's the beauty of playing with those kind of musicians who are really amazing improvisers when they, because for me the improvisation at the highest level can sound like composition.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just spontaneous composition.
Absolutely.
If it's just meandering, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't say anything, it doesn't touch me. But but those records were always pretty adventurous. And wasn't too concerned about anything than for those records, and just try to put something out there that was special and featuring these amazing one of a kind players.
Well, it still sounds fresh. It's like more than 30 years old, 33, and it sounds so fresh still. It's not dated in time. I mean, like all you guys are, like you said,
thanks.
Monster level playing. I mean, it's like scary. So.
Well, it's human too. There's no sequencing except for maybe one tune. There was a little arpeggio thing, hidden places, I think it was. But it's just human. I think if you try to avoid trends, and get back to something that's very organic, it can be more timeless. I mean, sometimes the sounds, certain reverbs or certain delays that will have a certain sound. It might timestamp a record a little bit, but the playing, though, if it's human stuff, if it's not loops, if it's not a drum machine, you know what I mean? If it's not the machine-based stuff, it can. I think it has a longer life to it.
Definitely. No, I mean, it's like if I listen to Chick Corea's stuff, the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible musically, but for me, it sounds like
it's brilliant.
I know it's 86, or 87 or 85, because I don't know, sound-wise or something about it. It's like it's there, but like that record that you did with Allan and the other ones are not, somehow. Maybe it's like you said, it's more. It breathes more, I guess. Maybe that's my opinion. I don't know, but.
Well, I think it's more organic because you're just involving humans who are super talented or are doing their thing.
Exactly.
Even though there's synthesizers on it, that sometimes can timestamp something. But a player like Jim Cox, he's so creative. When you get there, he starts with a sine wave. You hear him create the sound stuff for each tune. He's a real great synthesist as well as a great B3 player. And Jimmy Johnson's unbelievable bass player. We played with him the other night with Mike Miller.
Really?
And Mitch Foreman.
Oh, wow.
Brandon Fields. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Super great. Yeah, super fun.
Yeah. Did you talk a lot? I mean, you mentioned Allan. I wanted to ask you about Allan. I mean, I'm a guitarist, so I kind of asked Jimmy and Steve Hunt and Gary Husband and all these guys about Allan, since he's still one of I think he's one of the heroes of the guitar world, of course. And do you remember the first
best musicians ever?
Yeah. Do you remember the first gig with Allan? And like, did you talk a lot? How did you talk about his music? Because he had like a peculiar way of writing. I mean, it's very individual style. Like,
yeah, it's incredibly unique on multiple levels. The way he wrote music, and I loved it. So the first gig was in Reseda, a place called the Country Club. It's not there anymore. It was a pretty big place, maybe, I don't know, 600-700 seat place, and it was packed.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't believe this great music with this incredible guitarist, and like lots of people are showing up at that time. Gary Husband was in the original IOU band, and he had left to go back home to England, and so Allan started a band. He hired Jeff Berlin, and he was looking for a drummer. So I was through my friend John Ferraro, who also auditioned, but John was already doing a tour. He couldn't work with Allan, so he gave me his number I auditioned, but the audition was just improvising for about an hour and a half, just duet, no bass player.
Oh man.
Because his thought was,
Mm.
well, anybody could learn tunes, but he was much more interested in the chemistry. And then I realized pretty quickly that he wasn't going to tell anybody anything, because he didn't like to be told what to do. You know, he was in some bands, I think, in the past, where they were saying, do this, do this. No, don't do that. I want you to play this part. And he didn't enjoy that. He you know, so in his band, it was all based on, it's almost like being a casting director, you know,
Yeah.
like picking the right actors that have some chemistry and create something together in an improvisational way. Because if you're not going to tell anybody anything, if you're not going to tell them no, it was like, well, I want to pick people who bring things to my music that I enjoy without telling them. So, you know, so yeah, it was like that. So the first gig was Jeff Berlin and myself, and then we toured. It was great. It was a thrill. It was just so open, and you know, and he was such a powerful player. Like sometimes he would start it, depending on the songs, and you know, he'd play beautifully.
Yeah.
But on some tunes he would take, like the start of his guitar solo might be at an intensity level that I was used to with another guitar player at the end of their solo. You know, it would start with this huge intensity and grow and grow and grow. So I thought, oh wow, okay, I've got to learn to pace myself, or figure out how to support this incredibly intense, you know, like solo composition of these spontaneous. It was challenging, and I could tell he didn't really want patterns played too much. It wasn't a funk, you know, it wasn't like a fusion as far as like R&B and jazz, which was kind of happening at the time on the radio and stuff. There was a lot of bands that were kind of almost like playing songs, but instead of vocalists, they'd have a sax or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that at all, you know. But
Basta.
it was more. I thought was more kind of rooted in the Tony Williams Lifetime type of vibe. So I kind of started there as far as a reference, and then of course listened to the IOU record, which is a fantastic record. Then from there we made the Road Games album with that band. And we toured a lot in the States, just very frugally, you know, Cadillac and a trailer.
Oh man, really? Oh wow.
Yeah. With Steve Morris's band too. We did a lot of a couple tours with his band as well. Cool. Yeah. Some fun days, hilarious stuff.
Yeah. Like how did you keep fresh on those gigs? I mean, or even now, like on tour, that, you know, but especially with Allan, I guess, since you're more or less improvising all the time, like even within the tunes, right? Like, do you have a recipe still now, like how to reinvent yourself every evening? I mean, I have problems with that sometimes. When it's gig 12, I'm like, shit, man. With myself, that I keep repeating myself, but maybe I'm not, and maybe that's who you are. Like,
well, we were playing a lot of tunes, and Paul Williams was also in the band at the time. We had a vocalist, so there were songs, but you know, they were, as you know, his songs were not typical. Like there would be like a song, but then Paul would leave the stage for the solos and stuff, and he'd come back and sing the end of it. So in between, it would get very adventurous. And well, I think I learned pretty quickly that when you play with improvisers that are that strong, you know, something great's going to happen. So there's no kind of urgency. You know what I mean? Like even if I stop, the other guys are going to create something beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the trust.
And sometimes I could take the lead. Sometimes Allan would take the lead. Sometimes Jeff would take the lead. And the next band we had was with Jimmy Johnson on bass.
Yeah.
And then we made that Metal Fatigue record. I played on half of it, which actually was a demo, but Allan liked what we did, so he took our demo bass and drum parts, which I think we did in a day, or maybe 2 days.
Wow.
And he worked on the guitars for a long time. And then Gary played on the other half of that record, and and on. Yeah.
Did he give you guys lead sheets, or how did he present tunes to you? No, right?
Played the guitar part.
Wow. Okay, that was it. Okay.
Yeah, so it was all just very open.
Wow.
Play what you want on top of it, you know.
That's so cool. Amazing, man. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, amazing. It's like you know, I love hearing this because it's just when you listen to that music, it's amazing. And I love that you did, you know, that
It's
you,
wonderful music. It really
yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
It's very special. There's nothing like it.
No,
And
it's
everybody in the band feels that very strongly that way too.
yeah,
He
exactly.
had a really different way of course, approaching harmony. He had a different way of approaching time. I mean, it just
Yeah.
really interesting musical form. You know, people analyze it now and they're just amazed. It's
Yeah.
wild. Great modulations. You know,
Oh man. Like every modern
some
guitarist, like,
serious
yeah.
harmony.
Oh man, yeah. Crazy stuff. Yeah.
Keyboard players too. Yeah, everybody who understands harmony. He just had he'd learned a different way.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. How did you decide to do 40 Reasons actually, since we mentioned it before? And I mean, I think it's one of the rare appearances also of Allan as a sideman. You know, he didn't do a lot of that stuff. So, what's the story behind 40 Reasons?
I went to Germany and recorded a record with my friend Ed Mann, great percussionist from Zappa.
Hmm.
I did a couple records with Ed on the CMP label, which was basically a German art label. And they just did really interesting records. They would get interesting players who were great improvisers, and they had a house, you know, in Germany, which they wired up as a studio. Had a great gear, you know, great stuff at the time. And so I talked to Kurt Ranker, who owned the label, and because I knew him from doing a couple records with Ed, and I said, well, I'd love to do a solo record, and he said, yeah, sure. Do you want to do it with just drums, or do you want to do it with a band? So I thought, okay, so I was like, he's not thinking commercial at all. I thought, well, this will be great, because, you know, at that time, if you actually got a record deal, the main concern would be, well, where are the tunes we can play on the radio, you know? But because he was, I don't know, just he had this label that was CMP Creative Music Productions. The whole idea was to be very creative and push the envelope a lot. So we did it at Capitol Records in LA, which is a fantastic studio. And yeah, I don't know if just Allan and I were friends, so I asked him to do it, and he said, yeah. And I came over and showed him each tune, and then we did these improvs, which were just really quick.
Yeah.
You know, we did a ton of them, and we just listened to back each one. If anybody had a problem with one, it was like, okay, we won't use that one. Next, okay. Oh, everybody likes that one. Okay, let's use that one. It was like that.
Mm. So,
Yeah,
so there are still outtakes there, right? Exist now.
Oh yeah, I don't think I'd ever because it was I wouldn't put it out because it was a band vote. You know?
Yeah, but yeah, okay. Still unreleased Allan.
And he also played on the next record too, The View, as well.
Yeah.
And of course, Allan played a lot on Dreams, Nightmares, and Improvisations. I think that's his probably last record. His last recording. Yeah. He was working on a record, but he didn't.
No,
never finished. Yeah.
Did you tour with that band also, like under your name, with that group, or?
I toured. So in between those, from 1994 until 2004, I lived in Australia, and I had a really nice Australian, two American guys who lived in Sydney, and a great guitar player named James Muller.
James Muller. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Bassist was Leon Gear and Daryl Pratt on vibraphone when he triggered synthesizers from his vibes. We toured in Europe with that band.
Oh, okay.
One tour, and it was fun. It was good,
but not with Allan, right? Like
not with Allan. I don't know. I toured with Allan because
it's under his name. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Chad. Like you mentioned Zappa before, and but you were like, I don't know, 21 when you joined his band, but and you probably answered so many questions about playing with him, so I will not bother you too much with him. But like, I just wanted to ask you, what did you learn from him, like being a sideman or him being a band leader, and how to compose, and Did you also talk about composition with him, like that led to your projects? And
Um, well, it was just wild to see how many different ways he would compose. Like, often with that band, he'd bring in a lyric sheet. He
wow,
had the words, and we'd start there.
really?
You
Wow.
know, yeah. And sometimes he'd come in. It was everything. And sometimes it would come in with a guitar riff, like a rock and roll guitar riff. But then he would hand you a sheet of music, which was a classical piece of music, and that was going to be the middle section of the song. And he would figure out how to get from there to there and how to make. He was brilliant. He was so
Yeah,
brilliant.
sure. Yeah.
Other things would be, you could tell he wrote a marimba just by the way it was, or keyboard like piano, certain way things just laid. Other things were just obviously guitar based. Then he had a whole synclavier world too going on too. And in '88 he incorporated. He took the synclavier on tour,
Yeah.
but used it in an improvisational sense. Like Bobby Martin could trigger it, Ed Mann could trigger it, or I could trigger it
Yeah.
in a solo, and he wouldn't tell us what sounds or patches were in it. And he would just give you a certain cue, a point, and so you were controlling this thing now. You didn't know what was
So
going to come
cool.
out,
That's
but I
incredible.
could improvise around it. Sometimes I'd hit a pad and a whole string quartet piece would start. Other times it might be trumpets or blazing guitars or just bells or whatever.
Wow.
And again, that was fun to react to. But yeah, no, he can compose in all sorts of ways.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
And sometimes with a odd time
Yeah,
pattern,
sure.
like a Bulgarian kind of rhythm or something.
Yeah. Incredible.
And the band could play the classical stuff too. Sometimes it would just be a classical piece that he wrote. We play that.
Hmm.
Rock and roll, jazz, everything.
Yeah. How is he as a band leader? I mean, like towards the guys.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was one of those. I don't know if there's that many guys in the band have talked about this before, but he was such a strong leader. In the jazz world, I look at like Miles Davis as being a great leader.
Yeah.
And he really ran the band. You know what I mean? Like you'd see Miles on stage and he'd go up to a soloist and put his hand on his shoulder or something, right?
Yeah.
You could tell he was in charge, even though they could improvise. But he would still he'd be directing it live on stage. That's what I felt with Miles, and Frank definitely did that.
Did he tell you what to play as a drummer? Or did you have like a carte blanche more or less? Or
both?
Both, yeah.
It was both. Certain pieces would have, like, sometimes the drum lick would be the hook of the song, or go along with the hook of the song. Other things were totally wide open, and he had this great balance where, some of the classical music was pretty dense, pretty fast stuff, or polyrhythmic, and then it would come to a wide open guitar solo, just F Lydian, you know what I mean? Like it would just be really open and free. Then you go back to the crazy, the more dense stuff. So, because I always thought, well, if you just had a whole night of all that classical stuff, it'd be too much. It'd be just hard to concentrate for that long. But when the guitar solos were so open and they were long and they were sometimes on one or two chords or just a mode, it just made the stuff breathe.
Well,
but yeah, he composed in all sorts of ways, and that was amazing watching that, how he could take, and also he hired guys in his band wouldn't normally play together, because we get like I was in the band, Steve I was there, and he was really influenced by Hendrix and Frank as a guitar player. Tommy Mars seemed like he was influenced by Art Tatum, you know what I mean? And I don't know, he had his own world.
Exactly, yeah.
Ed Mann was a really good drummer too. He played kind of like John Bonham style drums, but amazing classical percussionist and really into a lot of ethnic music. So you get all these characters who wouldn't normally even be in a band together, but he was able to arrange it and figure out what people did really well, then feature that within his music. You know, one of the questions at the audition was, "What do you do that's fantastic?"
Oh shit! What did you answer?
And it's just wide open. You know, it could be, you know,
Wow.
it could be anything. But what's some special talent do you have? It could it could go beyond music too. But if you had something, he would definitely feature it. You know, he'd write for these players, and even in the guitar solo, they say maybe just one guitar, one keyboard, and bass, drums. That's it. Other times it'd be the whole horn section and everybody.
How did you end
Great
up on that audition, by the way?
A friend of mine, Kevin Brandon, who's a really great bass player, he auditioned before me and with a drummer friend of his, and that didn't work out. But he called me the next day and said, "Here's Frank's number. You should call him."
Wow.
It was just open cattle call, you know.
Wow. Shit. And how was the first audition? I mean, what did you play? What did you have to play? Or
the audition, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it short. So you had to get through the reading process first, and most people didn't pass that.
So he gave you the black page or something, or kind of like that, or
Black Page was on their Drowning Witch interlude, just the hard sections of pieces, Alien Orifice, what letter B or something, the hard parts. Part of Mo and Herb's Vacation, which is the hardest piece I've ever seen.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
you know, it's a clarinet concerto with the drums in unison with the clarinet.
That's great.
The first movement of it. So most people just didn't get past that. So because you had to read and you couldn't fake it. You know, it's classical, it's black and white. So I couldn't play it perfectly, but I played enough of it right where he thought I had potential, and I guess I did better than the other guys. So then my audition was over 3 days.
Wow, really?
So like really long. And Ed Mann was there, Tommy Mars. I think Scott Tunis got the gig like a couple days before I did. So different bass players at first, but then Scott was there. Steve Vai, those were the guys, and they had been auditioning for 3 weeks, so they were all kind of very burnt out, ready to like, come on, let's move on. You know. But yeah, so it was a reading. Then it was all playing in odd times, like 21 and 19, stuff like that. Then for a long time, then soloing over it and playing, you know, reggae in 7 or 13 and ska and all the different feels. You would just see what you could do and what you couldn't do.
Right. How did you learn that?
With everybody.
How did you learn that before, like to play like 19, let's say? I mean,
I went to when I was a kid, I went to, my dad was a jazz band director, and he was a big fan of big bands. And when I was a kid, Stan Kenton, big band leader, they would do these summer music camps, and you'd be there for a week or 2 weeks at like a local college. And so I did quite a few of those. And at the time, Peter Erskine was playing drums.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when he joined the band, there were a couple of arrangers that were really into odd time signatures. There was a guy named Hank Levy who would write in these odd time signatures. And because Peter was in the band, he knew he could do it now. Because Peter was into Weather Report, and and all sorts of ethnic music, of course. So I started hearing it there. The one year, the Kenton band didn't do it, but the Don Ellis band did a clinic camp instead. And Ralph Humphrey was the drummer. I think 2 drummers and a percussionist in that band. There was a lot of Indian music and Bulgarian music.
Yeah, sure. That's like
in that band.
Stuff, yeah.
So I was playing in 33/16 and all this crazy, but it was a big band with a string section. It was crazy. And Don Ellis had a quarter tone trumpet because he loved all these Indian scales, right? So I heard that stuff, and I could hear Ralph doing it. This is before Ralph was in Zappa's band. So I kind of got into that stuff and figured out a method how to play those, little subdivisions and connect them and stuff. So that wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
So I was used to that part of it. Some of the polyrhythms were much more difficult with Frank's music, but I understood the concept of it, so I could practice it, learn it, play it.
Wow. incredible, man. Was the first tour hard for you? Like you were like 21, right, or 22 with Frank? I mean,
Yeah, I was 21. Scott, the bass player, was 21, and Steve Vai was 21.
wow. And then you went on a road
And the other,
like a long tour, the first one, or
yeah, we rehearsed for 3 months, 8 hours a day, and then we went on the road for, I think it was 3 months, and we took a break and did another 3 months.
Lord, man, Jesus, okay.
So we did the States and did Europe. And that was the
That's
81,
crazy.
82 tour. And then we did 84 tour and 88 tour. Then I recorded a lot between those tours. So
Yep.
it's over a 7-year period.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I played with Allan in between. You know?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you about
Yeah.
that. How did you, because I look at the records and it's like Allan and Frank. Did Frank ever see the Allan band, by the way?
Allan was Frank's favorite guitar player, one of his favorite
Oh, really?
musicians, and he often would mention him. But I took Allan up to Frank's house once and introduced them.
Wow, man.
So that was fun to see and hanging out.
With Allan and Frank, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, somebody played. I think somebody played Frank the IOU record, and I didn't realize it, but he was apparently listening to it all the time on the 81, 82 tour.
Wow.
And then when on break, I auditioned for Allan, and I told Frank, and he was like, "Yeah, that guy's super creative." And I remember playing him when we did the demo, which was Metal Fatigue record. I played him. We're just on the bus, and every once in a while, one of the guys would play something for Frank, although it was pretty nerve-wracking playing anything for Frank Zappa. But I played him Devil Take the Hindmost.
Yeah.
And he listened to the whole thing. And he just looked at me and he said, "That's a brilliant piece of music." And I thought, wow, he really connected with Allan's music a lot. I think he loved it because it was so unique. It was so different. It was not, not what was popular or kind of predictable.
Both of these guys, you played like with two of the
I was so
creative
lucky.
geniuses,
Really
of music,
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
In different ways, but both of them.
Yeah. You mentioned like 73, 74, Stan Kenton and those guys, and who were the jazz drummers you listened to back then? Like, I mean, it was like mid-70s was the explosion of fusion, so kind of, Mahavishnu came and Returned to Forever. Like, what got you influenced jazz-wise also?
Well, my dad had a really eclectic taste in music, so we, and we'd take drum lessons from teachers together, and sometimes they would turn us on to stuff like Cream, Ginger Baker, Mitch Mitchell, Rockwise, and then of course Elvin Jones and Tony Williams. Then some of the Miles stuff, the Coltrane stuff. Then as it got electric, into that,
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
All those the guys are big personalities.
The usual suspects. Yeah, kind of. I thought so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Otherwise, I just wanted to ask you also your story with James Taylor. I saw you played last year, and you've been playing with him for such a long time. And how did you end up on his gig? When was that?
Well, so Jimmy Johnson, he's one of my. He's the bass player with James Taylor and has been for years. Also, the bass player with Allan for years. So it was through Jimmy. So the regular band is Steve Gadd is the drummer, but if Steve can't make it, I've been lucky enough where they call me to jump in, and Steve's still busy, so sometimes he's not available to do everything of James's, and like I finished up the summer, last few weeks of their summer tour in the States, which was super fun.
Yeah.
And James is a great musician. He's just an incredible musician. He's an amazing songwriter, great lyricist, really knows his harmony too. Like he does, I didn't realize at first that he does the arrangements in the band.
Oh, really?
Like he'll tell the horn players what to play. He'll come up with lines. Even sometimes you give him a standard and he'll be inventive with the chord changes and come up with something really classy and sometimes unexpected. Yeah, he's a great musician.
Yeah.
The band's ridiculous, it's like, it's fun to be in that world too, and
Yeah.
play real sparse.
It's completely different, yeah, than Frank or Aaron, let's say. Yeah. But still.
Yeah, and it's fun to play real, in that way too. It's more, well, of course, it's not as active, but the songs don't need to be.
Oh man, they're beautiful. Yeah.
They're beautiful songs. They're beautiful changes. They're beautiful. There's just wonderful lyrics, and so you play in keeping that as a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
the
support
music,
the song.
Yeah,
You give it to whatever it needs, and you can be creative with that. Just because you're not playing fast doesn't mean you can't be creative.
absolutely. Yeah. Definitely.
So you can come up with different sounds. You can decide to. There's all sorts of things you can do sonically.
Yeah, on such a good.
Or leave stuff out. It's fun, super fun. But that band, I mean, the time in that band everybody's time is so good. It's like they're all drummers. Like I can stop and the thing just keeps on grooving. It's like that kind of band. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Jimmy Johnson. You mentioned him, and you two guys seem to have like an amazing musical. Talk about groove. Whether you're playing with James or Alan or whoever, like
that kind of feels the same.
How did you achieve that? I mean, like, did you talk about music a lot, or not even, or just playing?
No,
it's listening.
Yeah, he's got something magical about him. I would say that every band that I've heard that when he plays, the drummer sounds better. So he has, which is, and pretty much you talk to any drummer that I know who's played with Jimmy, and they go, "Oh, he just plays in a way where it just works better." He was actually the first guy I played with because Alan's could play some ferocious guitar solos, but when it started getting, and Alan wanted activity, I could tell he wanted it to support that kind of intensity with the drums, and typically, like most bass players or other musicians will also get active. But with Jimmy, he did the opposite.
Yeah.
Like even in the range of the guitar, I noticed if Alan's playing up here, then Jimmy would not play up. He'd do the opposite. He'd go low, play some kind of longer notes, and then when it mellowed out, then he would get a little bit more active. So it was all this beautiful balance, and it made the music not ever sound cluttered.
Yeah.
Because a lot of fusion bands get very cluttered sounding to me. It's like guitar player's going for it, the drummer's going for it, the bass player's going for it, keyboard players, everybody's going for it. And it's just like there's no room, there's no space. Where if you allow the soloist to go for it and frame it, in a way, it can work in a different way. I think it's and you're always dealing with that balance in real time.
Yeah.
Too, and that's part of the game. That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
But it just musically works really well. I don't know. It's I can't put it into words, but he just seems to land wherever the drummer lands.
Yeah. No, I heard you listen to so much stuff on YouTube. Of whenever you're playing together, it's just like, man, like bucks. You're. It's just
we laugh sometimes because like I'll play some. It's like sometimes you play with a musician. It happens with Jimmy too. I'll just play something really out there as a fill sometimes, but like Jimmy's playing the same thing with me in unison. It's so random. It's not pre-planned. It's just psychic. I don't know. He's kind of psychic. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, super fun. We had one of the best nights ever with Mike Miller's band the other night. Super fun. Yeah.
Is this a record you're preparing also Mike's music or no? It was just a random.
Oh, we played on a few records of Mike's in the past, but yeah.
I mean, if something new is coming out by Mike, no, right? Or I have to ask him maybe. Yeah.
No, he has a fairly new record out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been out for maybe a year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. Yes.
What have you otherwise been preparing? Like, or what's on the schedule for you for this year? I mean, gig-wise.
There's a lot of different stuff. We're playing in LA, the Baked Potato 3 nights. I think it's with the Zappa alumni band.
Oh, wow.
It's Ray White, Scott Tunis on Ray White, guitar, vocals, of course. Bobby Martin goes by Robert Martin now. Plays sax, French horn, keyboards, sings. Scott Tunis on bass, myself. So we're the 4 alumni. And then for the LA gig, it's going to be Jamie Kime. He played guitar with Dweezil, and he's an amazing guitar player. And Robbie Mangano is also a New York guitar player. He's in the Zappa circles of. And then when we're going to Scandinavia for 4 dates: Oslo, Stockholm, and two other cities. The same band, but Jamie can't do it, so Mike Miller's going to play the other guitar.
Oh, fantastic!
And that's happening, and that's the first week of March. March 5th, I think it's March 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, Scandinavia. Playing with a band in LA, Alva's, called the Cranktones. It's Carl Verheyen.
Oh, you're still playing with him? I love Carl, man. Oh, super.
We have it's kind of like a obscure blues band. It's a little bit Allman Brothers-ish or Little Feat kind of stuff. Some obscure cover tunes, but which we treat in different ways. And it's 2 drummers, John Ferraro and myself, Jim Cox on B3, Craig Copeland, great guitar, great singer, Tom Child on bass. So we're playing at Alva's on March 23rd. And then all of April, I'm in Europe with Michael E. Firkin. Michael E. Firkin's and Stu Ham.
Oh, doing, wow, really? Oh, beautiful.
Music of Jeff Beck.
Whoa, really? Oh,
yeah, so that's the stuff. Then also on February 10th, I'm playing with Miles of India, which is Vince Wilburn normally plays in it. Miles's nephew.
Yeah.
But Alfonso Johnson's playing bass, and Adam Holtzman is the musical director. And it has I haven't heard this stuff yet, but it's mostly Indian musicians, but they're playing like a lot of tunes from On the Corner, the Miles Davis stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So we're doing a big live concert with that, which will be really interesting. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic.
So that's in next week. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's at the Luckman Arts Center, part of Cal State LA, I think it is. Yeah.
So you're busy. Beautiful, man. I'll check with Michael when you're in Europe. If you're close to me, I'll definitely catch you guys. I mean, I'm in Slovenia, so I don't know if you make it to Slovenia, but maybe Austria. I would love to see you.
We're starting in Vienna.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Then I'll check the tour schedule. Okay. That's 2 hours.
Yeah, I do.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, our first gig's there. Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll probably rehearse a couple days before then. Yeah.
Fantastic. Super. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to a new record, Chad. So when you're gonna start composing, let me know.
Yeah, I'm slow, but I'm slowly working on it. Yeah, for sure.
You need to do another one. I love those. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but thanks so much for sharing some of these stories and stuff, and I really appreciate it, taking the time, man. And
thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
And keep it strong, like you have been doing it. So amazing.
Yeah, it's nice. It's gotten really active again. You know, everybody had a big break there for.
I know.
Years, so
but
you know what's really promising? Like even when we play these little baked potato gigs. Oh, I mean the other thing I did, I went to I don't know if you know this. You know Francis Dunnery, English guitar player, singer, songwriter. He had a popular band in the '80s called It Bites, a prog rock band.
Okay.
And I've just done his new record. It Bites is the name of the record. It's
check it out.
Really good songs and very. Some of it's kind of on the Paul McCartney side and some of it's on the Yes side. So it's kind of those combinations. So I just did a tour with him in England, and we did this record at Rockfield Studio, which is where Bohemian Rhapsody was recorded.
Oh shit, man, that's heavy. Okay.
Queen
okay.
is this old, great vintage studio in Wales.
Wow.
And recorded to analog tape. The whole record's analog.
Oh man.
So we had to go for no editing, full performances. You know, it was really fun. So that's also out at the moment.
Wow. So you're doing really a wide range of things, right? I mean, like from
which is fun.
Miles to singer-songwriter to amazing.
I love it all. It's fun to go back and forth these different modes. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway,
yeah.
Thanks so much.
You too. Thank you. I'll let you know when this is out. I'll send you a link and everything. So
very good.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.